Business from the City Council reports, and we'll begin with Councilmember Preet Didball.
They had the Regional Housing Authority meeting last week. It was pretty much just regular business, but we do have an interim executive director that we're looking at to potentially hire as the executive director. But in the works of that, we've asked for his goals and priorities and what has been accomplished in the previous year and what the future looks like. So in our next meeting, we'll be discussing that further and possibly make that decision. Other than that, we didn't have anything. We do have a transit meeting tomorrow. And the other business that I just wanted to indicate is that the Summer at City Hall program is now in the works. Applications are being accepted. They've been distributed to the schools. So I'm looking for sophomores and juniors. Program will be from June 6th through the 24th. It'll be a 3-week program for kids to learn about public service and job shadow, city and court employees and so forth. We're really excited, so hopefully we'll get about 20 kids into the program, and it'll be the first year, and next year we'll continue. So thank you to Brad McIntyre, Darren Gale, Nancy Auberg, Randy Page. I hope I don't leave anybody in. We just hired our teacher, Lauren Urwart, to help out with the program and the classwork and so forth. So we're very, very excited to get this going. And thank you for everybody's support to help with it.
Thank you very much. And moving on to Councilmember Dukes.
All right, I have a few items to report here since our last meeting. Had a board meeting with Greater Sacramento and had our annual update of what has transpired over the first year of Greater Sacramento, and it's their goals. They have met all but one goal, which is pretty amazing for a startup organization, and looking forward to what they'll be doing this coming year and the goals that we have set for new businesses in our region. Attended the Cap to Cap trip in Washington, D.C. I personally had 6 meetings with, I was on the flood team this year again, and had meetings with members of Congress, Office of Budget and Management, and was very productive meetings. Most of the meetings this year, we didn't have a real ask like a lot of years that we have had, but it was going back and thanking the different members and agencies that have helped us with our levee project here in the community to get to where we are today, nearly completing and hopefully completing our project this year. Also met with Darcy Brewer of the California Capitol Air Show and got an update on some of the new exhibits that will be there this year. Hoping to have the F-22 Raptors and the new F-35 fighter will be there at the air show, which is one of, I think, only 4 air shows in the country that this year will have that aircraft. Met with Colonel Green at the Pentagon, got update on some of the programs at Beale Air Force Base and the new buildings that are being constructed there, the new DGS, which is basically doubling the size of the current building, which is the building. DGS is basically where they take and disseminate the intel that comes from around the world, and that's where they break it all down. And so we'll be doubling the size of that at Beale here. I believe it's a 84,000 square foot building that they're constructing there at Beale. The new West Coast Command facility, which is under construction at Beale. And then had the mosquito vector meeting shortly after getting back from Cap to Cap last Thursday. And they are gearing up for the summer season and hoping to deal with the West Nile virus, which still is a very big concern in our community, and we'll be dealing with Zika virus if that shows its head here in our community. That's all I have.
Thank you. And moving on to Councilmember Gill.
Yeah, our flood meeting is set for Wednesday for the Southern Buttes Flood Agency. I also attended Cap to Cap, attended a lot of the meetings based upon flood. The interesting thing, even though Councilmember Dukes and I are both flood, there was a lot of committees that were totally on different committee boards and attended. And it's always interesting because when you go back, you try to make these meetings as productive as possible. Because we take a look and go, a lot of these meetings that we go to, we can probably do these meetings here as well. But it's other people that you're not able to meet. And it was interesting, again, going to the Pentagon because the Army Corps of Engineers and Undersecretary Darcy is going to be retiring pretty soon. And so, get to know her on a first name basis. And we walk into, I got a few people retiring and walked in, and there was with us was Safeco Natomas and about 8-9 of us walk into that room. And first thing in Lamont, and we got a chance to visit with him, first thing he says was, how's Sabufka doing? How's the negotiations with the Indians going? And everybody else is looking around. You're going, okay, here you're in Washington, D.C., and somebody wants to know about Sabufka. So it's nice that we give them an update, and they tell us how we can do things and what we need to get things moving. Since our levee project is probably one of the largest levee projects, slurry wall projects in the United States. And so not only is the Army Corps of Engineer, but all of the representatives paying very, very close attention. I had the meetings with Ami Berra, Congressman Ami Berra, John Garamendi, Doug LaMalfa's office. And I thought the real nicest meeting that we had of all this was Congresswoman Doris Matsui. And there was about 8-9 of us, basically just sitting in a room and had all the ample time. And when she said it, she goes, when I got elected, she goes, I had no idea that my number one priority was going to be flood projects, flood protection. And she goes, I realize how important it is to our region. And she goes, whether it's you guys in Yuba City or whether it's in Sacramento, she goes, it's public safety and we're all working with flood protection. And then you realize in all these meetings, and like Councilmember Duke said, we weren't really asking so much, even though we were. It was nice because the only thing you hear kept over and over that, you guys are one region. You guys are all coming with one voice. And I didn't see in the old days, you saw a lot of bickering, and when grant money came out, it was always about me. How do we get our area first? When the Proposition 1E bonds passed, how do we hurry up and get before we lose any money? Everybody's sharing information. Everybody's visiting with everybody. Everybody's talking about a conversation they had with Department of Water Resources, Army Corps of Engineers. And I truly felt, I've gone to quite a bit of these, but this one here I think had the highest attendance, over 340 people, business folks, healthcare. Had a chance to talk to healthcare about possibly having a hospital here in Yuba City or partnering up with another hospital in this community, because we were able to visit with the CEOs of UC Davis, CEOs of Sutter Health, Kaiser, Dignity Health, all of these guys that you normally would not get a chance to visit with. So for us, it wasn't just about flood protection, it was healthcare, it was education. How do we move our community forward, and how do we do that? So those were just some of the highlights of those particular meetings, but I believe our schedules are available with our clerk. Anybody that wants to see them, who we visited with, our meetings, the times and place, those are all available for the public to review. So those are some of my highlights.
Thank you very much. And moving on to Vice Mayor Stan Cleveland.
Thank you very much. First of all, on Monday the 11th, I had a Sac Valley Division Board call-in meeting. That's the California League of Cities, and that's actually after the policy committees that I went on for April the 7th and 8th. I was in sunny Southern California, but it was liquid sun. The whole time I was there, they were absolutely flabbergasted that they were actually getting rain down there at this time of the year. Didn't hardly get to see the sun while I was there for the 2.5 days. So that was an interesting couple of days. But I attended the California League of Cities Policy Committee meetings on April the 7th and 8th. Two primary committees that I serve on or attend because they're so intertwined in their existence are the Environmental Quality and the Housing and Land Use Policy Committees. This is where they, statewide, the cities develop policies of what kinds of bills they're going to support or not. And it's very vital that we be there, being a rural community so close to a high population urban area. There were lengthy and lively discussions on multiple legislative Assembly and Senate bills in both the committee sessions. Main criteria, though, for the League of City members on those committees was local control and no unfunded mandates, or the vote would be flat out oppose, which is a long way from when I was a supervisor and we were working with them. It was, all the camel's noses under the tents. Of course, they had lots of money at that time. They learned their lessons, I think many of the cities did, that doesn't work. And it's literally local control, and it was very evident this time. We discussed AB 1800 from Hadley. And that bill did not even address the concerns raised by the citizens of Rancho Palos Verdes. So the vote was flat out opposed. It had to do with compensation for prolonged electrical power outages, and it was dealing with investor-owned utilities, because when you have a publicly owned utilities part of the commission, you can't hide anything. You get exposed on everything. Well, the investor-owned can kind of hide things here and there, and they were saying that PG&E has a pretty good, actually a very good process on if there's extended power outages, you get an automatic certain amount of money. If there's more problems, you can apply, and many of the others do not do that. They were asking for a bill to advance that better. Well, all this one did was information, gave no teeth, nothing. So after a lengthy discussion, it was realized that it didn't even fulfill what the citizens were requesting, and it got voted down soundly, close to 80 to 90% against that. There was another one, SB 1000. It was talking about our general plans, adding an additional element to study as a standalone. And if anybody's ever been through a general plan like I have, anything standalone just absolutely is extremely expensive. It interjects into everything else, and you have to rewrite everything from what we would be existing. And it had to do with environmental justice is what they wanted to be in there, which that is a subject just so broad, and so many opinions on what is environmental justice. So that came out close to a 95% oppose. They said that would be unfunded mandate. It would be taking local control away. And also it was realized with a study that communities are already doing that within their, and interjecting it into their general plans, because they realize that some of those components actually are real in the environmental justice. AB 2709 was talking about banning electrical conductive balloons. Down in Southern California, with all the power lines that they have everywhere, the population, they get quite a few blowouts from electricity getting into power lines, and those conductive ones, they're quite powerful, and also they'll catch fire and drop and start fires. But that was another. It had language in it that would make you a criminal and a misdemeanor on stuff, and so it was opposed unless amended to remove the language of becoming a criminal if you let a balloon loose. But they still kept some teeth, and there's a time frame on that. Also, while I was down there doing mixing with some of the people, the issue came up. One of the sponsors was Kaiser Hospitals, so I did express my community desire to at least have another hospital in the area, and of course they gave me the normal, population and everything, but had to say something. And then also Northrop Grumman had some representatives there, and we discussed Beale Air Force Base and issues that we have up here of expansion and things like that. So it's interesting that even at state level and different things, these different things that are happening, that we can have conversations that may help in the future. Also I have all kinds of stuff here on that. Had information, sorry about the length of it, but it was a very interesting seawater desalination plant that they've opened down there. They have a report on it and what they had to go through. Very, very, very expensive proposition for anybody to do. But they've done it, and it's 8% of their water they get from that. And then the greenhouse gas bills, page after page, that are being presented, that would be but we'd have to contend with. So I've upped my watch on many of the different bills. I'm going to be speaking with Darren Gale about some of these things. Some of them have already gone by the wayside. They saw no support, so I'll be getting with him soon and talking with him. I also do want to make a shout out for our fire personnel and police officers on some of the extra things that they do in the community, that they're just driving around or out and about. There was a 75-year-old woman at Gaucher Park, very disoriented, distressed, and they stopped and just noticed it, so they took care of her. And they helped her out, some of it out of their own pocket. Got her a hotel, found out that she does have her stuff in storage but can't afford a home. And so they were able to get her to somebody to start to assist her on that. And then just also the simple thing of even buying a pair of shoes for one of the people out there that's semi-homeless, kind of precariously housed, had no shoes. And they were in their right mind, and so that wasn't a factor. They just had no good shoes at the time, and so they chose to go barefoot. Well, they went out and bought some shoes, and when they saw them the next time, they gave them to her. And that's the caliber of people that we have serving us at the police and fire department, is the ones that will literally take care of the problem, and they don't want to be recognized. You know, they'll probably get hit for even mentioning for them, but that's the caliber that we have out there. And I thank them for being such great people and helping us. And otherwise, that's it.
They might not hit you, but they might write you a parking ticket now. I also attended the Cap to Cap back in Washington, D.C., and I'll tell you, the work that goes in, and certainly the team that represented Yuba and Sutter counties was tremendous in coming together to be able to resolve a couple issues. I want to especially thank Sutter County for coming to the table with us regarding a prior appropriation issue from back in the early 90s. It was an earmark that was made back when legislation allowed that. And there's some language that is specific within the reauthorization of these old earmark funds. And that is if less than 10% of the funds have been expended, they can be reauthorized. Unfortunately, Sutter County's earmark has been depleted by about 24%, creating just a slight issue, but nothing that some emergency meetings that Mr. Darren Gale helped set up, and certainly Sutter County, through their efforts, also helped set up. I attended 5 additional meetings while I was back there because my focus is transportation, and we were able to meet with two Senate members with their staff, and I also met with 3 additional congressional members, or with the Congress members themselves, regarding this issue, and certainly reached out of our immediate area to the chair of transportation on the House side to be able to get some type of resolution to this funding issue. It means bringing about $2.7 million to the Fifth Street Bridge project, and certainly we need that funding. It had been authorized for use on the old rail system that was running through there, and the study and other things that were occurring with the reuse or repurposing the old railroad trestle between Yuba City and Marysville. So I believe that we are really very, very, very close to coming to a a full resolution on this and be able to use that $2.7 million for its intended purpose, and that's the building of a new Fish Street Bridge, and I think we'll be able to move that forward rather quickly. But again, I do want to thank all the members that were on the trip. It's incredible to leave the hotel at 8:30 in the morning, head to the hill, and you never see one another again. And then as individuals kind of drag back in, I think that Councilmember Gill and Gail win the late award for coming in from the hill. They came dragging back at about almost 7 o'clock, and that's just the dedication that goes on while we're back there. The meetings are instrumental in moving forward not only Yuba City but our region, certainly in understanding how funding and future fundings will come forward, and the relationships are of such great value. And as Councilmember Gill said, Congresswoman Matsui doesn't represent us. Congressmember Matsui comes up to us at every one of these events and voices her support for the projects that we have going on here, whether it be at any level where she may end up having to cast a vote. So she has been just a critical member of the team, and she certainly is the backbone of some of the cap-to-cap events. Again, our city manager was back there. He went back at my insistence to go back, and was critical in a number of meetings back there, and also in meetings on the bridge project itself, and making sure that those meetings were coming together. So with all of that, it was just, I believe, one of the more productive events for us to go back to, even though we're not dragging back a large purse full of cash. These are the stepping stones to building our community to be more viable on the regional market, and also on the state market, and on the national front. Yuba City, the Sacramento region, is well known and very respected through the cap-to-cap program. So with that, I have nothing further. I'm going to adjourn tonight's meeting in the memory of Norman Kelch. Norm was a member of the Sutter County Probation Department, spent many years as a probation officer, recently passed away. I had the opportunity to work with him in a number of various positions. Not only as him being a probation officer, not mine, but as a probation officer who was dedicated to a number of avenues. But I did get to work with him at the Net 5 office when I was on that task force team. And Norm will certainly be missed, and was a true steward of public safety in our community. I'll adjourn the meeting.